And here we are. Welcome everyone and a very good evening to WR PC Tier 4, where we are at round 4 as well. Tonight, we're racing at the legendary circuit of Interlagos in Brazil. And Max, I'm glad to have you alongside me again. We were both absent last week, but we're back again.
Yeah, unfortunately, no stream last week. I was absent. Myth was absent. And I was mainly absent because there was no streamer. So, but yeah, it should be an interesting race here in Brazil. The championship, I would say, isn't too spicy at the moment, but still a long season ahead. And this circuit, being Brazil, Sao Paulo, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, is going to be one of the best circuits of the season, and we're surely going to be in for an absolutely cracking race for all 36 laps of it. Oh, well, hopefully that issue gets fixed.
It should... Oh, now it works.
Oh,
You didn't have to
hey,
change
there we
everything,
go.
but it did work. Okay,
There we go.
so
You guys.
all the talking I did about the championship went completely out the window, so that is wonderful. Nobody heard what intro I did at all either. But as I was saying, there was rain in PCF3, so the qualifying session was done on the intermediate tires, so that might show some changing weather conditions that we are going to see in qualifying and perhaps the race as well. And as I was saying, for the standings, DV19 leading the championship, 55 points, being very consistent so far, with the first, fourth, and second place to his name. Then it's two reserve drivers in F1 Racer 29, who unfortunately won't be racing tonight. He's a stand-in, but Gabriel Patrese, who is in third, will be coming in. F1 Racer on 43, Gabriel on 40 points, and in the first full-time seat, Aiden Hurd in the Williams, 24 points already, 31 behind DV19, and that after only 3 rounds is quite a substantial gap, but 11 races in total, tonight included, 8 still to go. There's still a lot to change, but boy, Brazil is going to be a good one.
Oh yeah, it certainly is, and I mean, DV19 in that championship, he's going to be so difficult to catch. He's finished, I think, lowest is fifth so far this season. So, oh no, sorry, fourth in Austria. So for the first 3 rounds, your lowest place finish is fourth, and the other 2 races you finish first and second. It's just super, super consistent at the moment. And if he can carry that on into here, Brazil, and maybe over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we could be thinking of an early wrap up to this championship, which is quite surprising for Tier 4, because usually this is a championship that will go all the way down to the wire. It just shows how consistent DV19 has been compared to all the other full-time drivers. Unfortunate for the reserves to be in the championship battle, but not actually have a drive. So they're just going to have to try and pick up the points when they can. But we're into the lobby now, and it's a dry qualifying session. I don't know if we're going to get a lobby restart though, because I think by the looks of it, the time of day is wrong, because it looks like it is early morning when I think it should be on midday.
Yeah, it looks like there's not too many clouds up on the horizon, but some good news because we have 19 drivers, someone who unfortunately did not show up, but that means good news for F1 Racer 29 because he is the next in line when it comes to stand-ins. So F1 Racer will be able to try and close that gap to championship leader DV19. So very, very good news on that sense. And it looks like Milena is the first to leave the pit. We don't have sound currently, I think. Now we do. It's just a little bit low. But there we go. We do have that. Everything seems to be sorted, so we will have 20 drivers in a moment. Yeah, as I was talking about earlier, Interlagos, quite the iconic and legendary circuit. Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, as you already mentioned. He actually won the race back in 1967. Sadly passed away a year later in... I'm sure if it was a helicopter crash or a racing-related incident. I think it was a racing-related incident. But afterward, posthumously, in 1985, his name was put on the track, and it, of course, has remained so ever since. But what to remember, the legendary win, the first win on home soil for Ayrton Senna back in, was it 91? 92?
I think it was 91.
I think so as well.
First home win. But yeah, I think it was 91 for Senna. But anyway, drivers are starting their laps now. First driver round on the circuit. I was going to say Melina, but she's going to do her usual 2 outlap strategy. So next in line is going to be a Red Bull of, if I can find him, that is the question. No, it's not a Red Bull, sorry. It's a RB of Alessandro Poi heading into turn 5. Got a bit loose on the exit of turn 4, just went a bit wide through there. Now into turn 6 and 7. Oh, a big slide through there as well for Alessandro Poi, having no correlation from front to rear end. The car just all over the shop. So the RB driver now heading up into turn 10, the Pico de Pato, which also translates to duckbill in Portuguese, as we now head through turn 11 and then in to Yun Sao, the final braking zone of the circuit, which is turn 12. This has been a very scrappy lap here from Alessandro Poi, who's now coming through 13, 14 and 15. DRS will be open for the RB as he heads to the line, as Melina, of course, sets her warm-up time. Alessandro Poi to the line, so 1 minute 7.281, but a very, very scrappy lap, and Lewis Jones not able to beat it there.
No, for now he's not able to beat it as we follow Tim Beyer make his way down the main straight as Aiden has gone very close. Dennis Langrog now going quickest with a 107 dead, so we might see some 106 coming in a moment's notice. Perhaps it will be Tim Beyer to do so, but he just comes across a little bit later. Meow though comes into first as we're now going to see what Tim Tornimo is doing. Here's Tim Tornimo, but he's just about to start his lap time. Of course, many more drivers still out there on track. DV19 about to start his lap as well, but Tim being about a 10th down what we saw the other drivers do earlier on. Milena, of course, still being on that hot lap and is about to come across the line. Currently about almost 4 seconds up, but that should be right about the time that she should be up. So let's see if she can improve greatly and get close to that front row. It is a P13 for now, but perhaps more improvement to come down the line later on. DV19 still on Gabriel Pratisi. He's going to be the first across the line. He will be contesting DV19, but can he do so well? He comes across the line in P3 for now, and that is a good run by the man in green.
Yeah, very nicely done there from Gabriele Prazzi. Tim Tornimo coming up to the line, and he's kicked Sal, but up to the line goes Sick fastest. Very, very close field so far. Only 4 attempts covering the top 14. Here we are then with DV19, the championship leader, as he is now heading to the line. Can it be provisional pole? No, only 7th fastest for DV19. Not the greatest of opening laps there for the McLaren driver. We'll have to wait and see how his session progresses though, as everybody has finished their first flying laps of qualifying. David Ricewick is the only driver who wasn't able to set a lap, and I think invalidated on his run, so he is now on his outlap in his Alpine, now down in 19th place. And of course we are going to get 20 drivers. F1 Racer just joining within the next few minutes it should be, and hopefully he can get a qualifying lap on the board. And just as I say it, he has joined the lobby. So F1 Racer, luckily for him and his championship permutations, he's now back into the lobby. But David Ricevick now starting his lap, heading into turn 1, braking at the 50-meter board down to 3rd gear. Clip that inside curve, run as much of that turn 2 and apex curve as you possibly can. Turn 3, you ride that apex, and then you just get a good launch out down the straight into turn 4. Purple middle sector apparently here for Reisvik as we now head through turn 4. A bit wide from the apex, but still carried enough momentum through the corner for turn 5. And now into turn 7. Downshift to 6. Make sure you can keep it pinned as he now enters into turn 8, which will then lead him into 9. Second gear, then all short shift back to 3rd, up to 4th, and into the Bico to Bato, down to 3rd gear. Clip that inside curve, back on the power, nice and early. Make sure you don't bottom out over a little bump on the outside. Through 11 flat out, you're focusing on 12. The late braking zone, very difficult to point out a brake marker as you now exit up the hill with David Reisvik. Is this going to be good enough for provisional pole? We saw he was purple in the first. The game said he was purple in the middle too. For Reisvik, is it provisional pole? No, it is not. He lost a bit of time in that final sector. A 1 minute 7.221 puts him into 8th place. But still, Meow with that opening lap on pole position, but only just from Oliver not behind.
Yeah, we saw he had a very good first sector, was more than a 10th quicker than we saw Tim Tornemo do earlier on, whose times I was monitoring, when the second sector was down by about a 10th on Tim's time, so it looks like David did lose the majority of his time in that second sector, even though that second sector looked quite clean. But we're now watching Alessandro Poi. He has about 2.5 tenths to make up for if he wants to move to provisional pole. Let's see how quick he is as he moves his way down to turn 10. Then onto the dive, Mergulio in turn 11 before hard braking into turn 12 and then going onto the main straight. He's on for 55. This is about the same time that we saw Tim Tornemo do earlier on. He's a 10th and a half up. If he can improve by an extra 10th, that would be huge. And because Slipstream is off, he will not get the amazing run down to the straight. And he's actually going to go in. He does abort his lap there. Not entirely sure. Perhaps that turn 12 didn't go according to plan. But it does show for Alessandro Poi at least that there is more time in the bag as Meow is now about to start his second flyer.
Yeah, Meow now on to his second run of qualifying, down by in that opening sector of the lap. A bit scrappy through turn 4, just turned in a little bit too early. Kept a nice and tight line though through turn 5 and into 6 and 7, down to 6, flat out for the rest of it, and then late braking into turn 8. Hug that inside curb to then slingshot back out to that left, and then a tight apex through turn 9 and then into Pico to Pato. Turn 10, very difficult to get back on that power as early as you want to through turn 11, and look how difficult it is to point a braking zone here. Hardly any references into Yin Sao, but still brilliantly done by Meow as we're now heading up the hill. DRS will be enabled for the Haas. Will this be an improvement on his lap? Heading up to the line for Meow. Is it going to be good enough to get into the 106s? Yes, it is. A 10th of a second found. A 1 minute 6.919. Brilliantly done from Meow. Oliver Knott was up in that first sector, but invalidated his lap. Dennis Langrock is half a second down. Gabriele Prazzi is on a lap, but he's heading through the middle sector, whereas DV19 and all of this, your championship leader, he's now heading up to the line. What would this be for DV19? And it's good enough for second place. Second driver to break that barrier into the 1 minute 6 is Langrock into the pit lane. Prazzi was up by half a tenth in that first sector. What's he going to be in the middle as he crosses it? Oh, and nearly up by 10th and a half. This could be a battle for provisional pole position brewing here in the mid part of qualifying. Tim Bayer up into third place, a 17-0 just behind his teammate. But Gabriele Prazzi, can he snatch provisional pole away from Meow? No, he cannot. And it's by 2 thousandths of a second. Provisional pole still within the hands of Meow, but some drivers still on their laps, still pushing onwards, and one of them being Drax, currently in 11th place.
Yeah, it looks like Drax is not going for a fast lap just yet. Might have made a mistake earlier on, has a lot of ERS still remaining, is low on fuel as well, so let's see if he's going to dive into the pits or if he's going to continue, but will indeed dive it into the pits. In the meantime, F1 Racer, who's just joined in with the lobby, has not practiced a single lap today, but yet the first lap he puts on the board is a 107.1. That is extremely impressive, and that shows that he will be a man to watch out for when we go to the race. As Maxim Ruzavsky, the stand-in, the first race for tonight, he invalidates almost before he comes across the line, and that lap would have been good enough for P4. So he just went too much on the pit entry, and that will cost him. Very, very sad to see for him. Meantime, Aiden is not on the fast lap either. Alessandro Poi is trying to do so, though. Was a little bit down in the first sector as he now makes his way to turn 10. But if he can improve in that crucial middle sector, he might be able to move up quite a bit, because the gap from him all the way to P1 is just about 3 tenths. And look at that, 2 tenths up in the middle sector. That's a great middle sector. 50.4 is right up with the people that have managed to get into those 106s. But can Alessandro do the same thing? He's going to come across the line, and it will be just in a 107. But it is good enough for P8 for the time being. Just 9 thousandths away from Maxim.
Oh, really, really unfortunate for Alessandro Poi to not get into P7. But just look how close this really is here. Up at the top. Nearly 3 attempts cover that top 13, top 14. So just over 3 attempts covering that top 14. Finding a tenth of a second, if you're, say, in David Ricevick or Aiden's position, you're finding yourself promoting up 3-4 places. It's just that close that any difference in time matters around here. That was David Ricevick coming across the line to set a 7.134. Nicely done there from him, but still just outside of the top 10. Drivers starting their laps once again for their third run of qualifying so far. Oliver Knott in 5th place did invalidate his previous lap after being half a tenth up. So what's this going to be for Oliver as he now enters into that final part of the middle sector? He's up by nearly 3 tenths of a second. If Oliver can keep this up out of Yun Sao, it was a very tidy exit. He could be on for an absolutely stonking lap. DRS Open as he now heads up to the line. The Kick Sauber is about to topple the timesheets here. A 1 minute 6.757. Over to you, nearly a tenth up in that first sector. What are you going to do to come back to that one? In the Haas, now heading through turns 8 and 9. A bit of a slide mid-corner. That's going to cost him about 200ths of a second as you now enter into the Pico de Pato. Nicely done. Get back on that power as early as you possibly can. Meow looking to snatch provisional pole back into his grasp. He's actually lost an abundance of time in that middle sector. It's not going to be enough here to snatch that provisional pole back. Has Oliver Knott in the middle part of this session just brought out a lap that could not be beaten? Gabriele Prazzi improved by a tenth and a half, but invalidated his lap time, so it wasn't able to count. So DV19 into that final part of the lap. He's up by just under a tenth and a half. That was a very calm and very composed run out of Yun Sao. DRS Open for Dustin Vincent as he heads up to the line. He's got no battery left in the car. What's it going to be? It's good enough for the front row. 1 minute 6.894. Still near over a tenth and a half away from Oliver Knott. Oliver Knott here has just pulled a lap out from of all laps, and I don't think that's going to be beaten here within the last 3 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, for now it won't be, as there's only 4 drivers in the 106s, with F1 Racer coming dangerously close in P6. So great lap by him once more, as I think Kevin West is still on for a lap if I quickly check it, but he's not improving so far. But what we saw, Meow is by far the fastest in the first sector. Another driver that can come close to that is David Ricewick. He did a 16.7. Meow in that last run, where he did not improve in the second sector, managed to get, as Tim Beyer actually goes into P2, it was a 16.6 in the first sector for Meow. So most of the drivers, I think, can gain a little bit of time in the first sector. And some of the drivers, at least most notably David Ricewick, who's very fast in the first sector, loses a tenth or 2 tenths in the second sector. And that's why he still finds himself in P13 for now. But look at that, it's a 107.1. If he improves by a tenth, he's up to P7. That's how close the field is, and if he can string one together, I think we will find him in the top 10.
Yeah, I think we will find him in the top 10 too. Everyone now coming out for their final runs of qualifying. Tim Tornimo going to be the first driver to start their flying lap, heading up Now into up the hill, down up the main straight, and into turn 1, braking at 50 meters, down to 4th for Tim as he now enters into turn 2. Make sure you don't invalidate there. Very easy to, just taking a bit too much of the apex curb. DRS open. So now heads into turn 4. What's it going to be in that first sector? Nearly 2 temps found in that first sector for Tim Tonimo. What is this middle sector going to be? If he can keep finding this time, Oliver Knott might have his own teammates contesting him for pole position. Here we are then into turn 8, as late on the brakes as he possibly could. You can see locking up that front right. Through turn 9 now, there's a bit of a slide on corner entry. Wouldn't have lost him too much time as he now enters the Pico Tabato and now exits out of the corner. He's still got 70% battery. He's going to be using it for the rest of the lap. Late on the brakes in this middle sector. He's lost a bit of time. He has lost half a tenth in that middle part of the lap, but still, this could be on for a top 5 start. DRS open for Tim Tornimo, up to the line. What's it going to be for the Kick Sauber? Can he get into that top 5? Across the line? No, just can't find the time he needs. A 1 minute 6.950. He could, though, if he has the fuel, recharge that battery and go again. Alessandro Poi now heading up to the line. What's this going to be for the RB driver? Currently in 10th place. Can he promote himself any further up? Yes, he can. And up into 3rd place. A brilliant lap there from Alessandro Poi to move himself up into the provisional front row. Tim Bayer has decided to retire, not thinking he can improve. Meow on his lap. Been on provisional pole for so long in this session, up by 34 thousandths in that first part of the lap. Now into the middle sector with the Haas driver, down to 3rd gear, back on the power. Not as much of a slide there this time around as there was a lap ago. Now heading up the hill into turn 10 once more. Easy to understeer, just that bit wider, bit of a slide from taking too much inside curb there. That could affect his run massively into Yun Sao. He is down once again on his lap, locked up into Yun Sao. That's going to be lap over. Meow won't find the time he needs on his lap. Gabriele Prazzi up by 36 thousandths. Oliver Knott is just a tiny bit further around. Then the Aston Martin behind. They are literally neck and neck following each other. Oliver Knott down on his lap time. Gabriele Prazzi up by 800ths of a second. Can Prazzi have an almighty run out of Yun Sao behind Oliver Knott? DRS will be open. Can he snatch it away from the Kick Sauber at the death? It's going to be a tricky task with 1 corner to go, and it's only good enough for P5. A poor run out of Yun Sao. Lost him an abundance of time. F1 racer, who of course hasn't practiced so far, as Maxim goes up into 2nd place. F1 racer up by 69 milliseconds. He can promote himself up into that top 8. This top 8 has changed drastically since 2 laps ago in this qualifying session. Meow, who was on provisional pole, now could be starting as low as 8th. F1 racer to the line. Can't find the time he needs to beat Tim Tornimo. It'll be Meow, who led this session for so long, in 7th. I think Milena's done with her lap. Yes, she is. It's going to be Oliver Knott who set that lap so early on into the session, before we even got to those final runs, on pole position. Brilliantly well done to Oliver Knott. But you've also got to look at Maxim. First race here, front row of the grid, with a very, very good lap.
It's a very impressive run indeed by Maxim Ruzavsky, who with a 106.784 is just 27 thousandths of a second slower than Oliver Knott in pole position, so he'll be starting on the front row. Great news for him. And yeah, if we just look at the gaps, I mean, it's just the first 2 are a little bit quicker. Then we have a patch of 108s, quite a few. Couple in the 9s, but then it's also close in the early 107s. But the driver that was unbeatable with the quickest run, I think it was the 3rd run that he managed to set, and that was the pole lap time. So Oliver Knott on pole together with Maxim on the first row. Then it's Tim Bayer, Alessandro Poi, row 2. Followed by championship leader DV19, who's got Gabriel Patrese in 3rd in the standings right behind him. Then it's Meow, Tim Tornimo, F1 racer, 2nd in the championship alongside Dennis Langrock. And then furthermore, down the grid, we find Kevin West, Lewis Jones, David Reiswick, Umau Pataya, Justin Chevalier, Drax, Aiden, Dalla McTeer, Melina, and finally, Passy. Just in time.
Just in time there, but yeah, we're going to have a lobby restart because collisions are off. But yeah, what a lap there from Oliver Knott, and really, really, really well done to Maxim at the end of that session there. From I think it was about eighth place where he popped up from, up to the front row of the grid with a really, really committed lap time there on that final run of the session. So to get on the front row in your debut race in Tier 4, it's tricky to do. So a massive congratulations for him, and hopefully, for his sake, he can convert that into a good finishing position, hopefully in the top 5. But championship leader, DV19, is ahead of all these the two championship reserve rivals of Gabriele Prazzi and F1 Racer here, Myth. So that's exactly what Dustin would have wanted.
Yeah, now you will hear the sound of the countdown in the background, but the drivers are going to retire, and once they do, we're going to go back into the lobby, and then we're going to prepare for the real race that will happen in a moment. As you mentioned earlier on the stream, we'll have 36 laps around the circuit here of Interlagos, and always the threat of rain looming. The circuit that is located between the lakes. It's also what the name means, Interlagos, between lakes. So that is something we have to be careful for. On top of that, I mean, the track's quite short. It's only 4.3 kilometers or 2.6 miles. But what the track's most notorious for, really, is for the championships that have been decided here in the past. And we've had some great championships deciders here. Now, what happened tonight, of course, is we're still very early on in the season. We'll perhaps see it in Saudi or in Japan, the final round in round 11. But I think that gives us a good moment to look at a calendar for this season. Do you have that one, Max?
The calendar, yes, I can quickly just bring that up. And yes, of course, we're here at Sao Paulo tonight, and then we'll head to Qatar after this next week for round 5. Then Abu Dhabi is round 6. I think then we have a week break because Italy is on the 2nd of September. That will be at Monza and not Imola for round 7. Then we head back to the Middle East after Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and Italy to go back to Bahrain, then to Mexico, then back to the Middle East again to go to Saudi Arabia, and then we end off the season in Japan, and that will be an absolutely amazing title finale in Japan. And yeah, I feel like that is really where I don't even think we're going to get a championship finale at that point with the way that Dustin Vincent's going. I reckon he could wrap this up as early as Mexico.
As they do right now. So in the meantime, I'm going to quickly load back in, and it looks like we are heading back into the lobby so we can change the settings and prepare for the race here tonight. What are your predictions for tonight, Max? Because I remember the last time we did this, you were awfully close to getting that right.
Yes, I was. It was unfortunately due to an Aiden time penalty that I did not get it right. And I'm going to go for I'm going to do it in reverse order. So I'm going to go for Meow in 3rd, DV19 2nd. I'm going to go for a debut winner. Maxim is gonna take his first race victory in his first race.
Alright, that sounds good. Yeah, I think we're going to see David Reiswick move up quite in the order, but I don't think he's going to make the podium just yet. I do think we will find in P3 Gabriele Pratisi. I think I agree with you, DV19 going to P2, but I think the race win will go to Oliver Knott. The pace that he showed so earlier on, and also his last run was quite close. I think he is the quickest around this track, so unless something crazy happens, he should be the one to take it. Those are our predictions. In the chat, let us know who you hope or who you think is going to win the race here tonight. There are, of course, 20 drivers to choose from. We have a stacked grid, and hopefully in a few minutes, we'll be able to get this underway. And it looks like you are also wearing your Brazil McLaren outfit, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm wearing my Monaco special McLaren Senna top. So yeah, it's a really comfy shirt. So if any of you McLaren fans, go and buy it. Definitely not a plug, but yeah, I mean, I just really like this shirt. It just symbolised Senna, who, in my opinion, this may cause some stir. Greatest driver of all time.
Yeah, definitely one of the most legendary drivers we've seen around this track. Of course, managed to win a race here as well, as we mentioned earlier on, early in the 90s. Coming across the line, quite screaming, really, almost passing out. Was so exhausted after winning that race. I don't think we're going to see such scenes here tonight. Hopefully not, at least. But perhaps we can see another different driver, because so far we've had 3 different drivers in 3 different races. We've had DV19 win the season opener, was Gabriele Patrese who won the second, and then the third race I believe was won by... Was it F1? No, F1 racer won the season opener. I think it was DV19 winning the last race.
No, it was you nearly had it right. It was DV19 who won it by 1 millisecond. That was such a crazy ending at Australia to win it by 1 millisecond, where F1 racer was actually reserving his DV19's teammate. That's just something you don't see very, very often. And now for F1 racer DV19 and Gabriele Prazzi, they've just got to try and get on this podium now in Brazil. F1 Racer and Gabriele, both of their races that they have done, they've got onto the podium. For F1 Racer, it's a first and a second. For Gabriele Prazzi, it's a first and a third. And then for DV19, only finishing off the podium once in Austria was a 4th place finish. But with the form that he's currently on, I'm expecting him to get at least back on that podium. And it's going to be a very interesting race. And I feel like there's going to be DRS trains for the opening part of it, going to be all about strategy and how you play that one. And luckily for the drivers now, they won't have to worry about guessing who their teammates are, because they're all in their actual F1 cars, so they know who their teammate is.
That definitely helps the drivers a lot too, but also us in the commentary box, so we can refer to teammates and team names instead of just the driver names. And I see that the drivers in the chat are talking about our quali merchant again, Oliver Nutt, who's notoriously known for being very quick in qualifying, but then not being so great in the races. Although I do have my hopes high for him here tonight. The stats, so to say, do speak against him.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for Oliver not being so good at qualifying and then not having the greatest race pace. Of course, I've felt personally on this game that the cars act completely different in qualifying and the race. They just handle totally different to one another. So that could be why Oliver Knott is a bit worse in the race, is a bit more understeer, and the car's not as pointy as he probably wanted to. We nearly just had a second lobby restart because Tim Tornimo nearly forgot that collisions weren't enabled. So that would have been a bit of a blunder there from him. But yeah, we're going to get underway shortly. It's going to be all about strategy. I would assume it's going to be a hard, medium hard around here. That's usually the strategy that happens around Brazil. Maybe someone could try push the soft, medium, soft, hard. We'll just have to wait and see. But it's going to be an interesting race. These drivers are going to be absolutely on it. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a bit of carnage on that opening lap, especially heading into turn 1, just due to how narrow it pinces up at the top of the hill.
Yeah, it does get very narrow into those Senna S's and turns 1 and 2. So, especially seeing how it was like in Australia, I think we can see some contact heading into turn 1. Let's hope it doesn't end the races of any of our drivers, but unfortunately we can't at least exclude that for the time being. But we'll see how the race starts in a moment, as we are now loading into the game, and then we can also see whether the weather has changed. I believe the weather is set to dynamic, which means that the weather that we just saw a moment ago, which was dry, we won't necessarily see here now. So we'll keep an eye on the chat. If any of the drivers are mentioning anything about the weather, if they don't mention anything about it, it will likely say dry. If they do mention something, we should see some rain. And aside from that, we will be able to prepare for our race start here. Race 4 of the season out of 11. And this is where you really need to make sure that you either get closer to that championship fight or fall out for good.
Yeah, this really is the deciding point. Round 4 and round 5 really are the point in the championship where you need to be on form. These are the races that are crucial to whether you're in that championship battle or not. So you need to perform now. If you don't perform now, that is your championship hopes over. You can't expect to win the championship from this point onwards if you do not perform. So for the likes of Aiden, who had a pretty poor qualifying, he's known as a race merchant. He's actually down in 17th place on the grid. That is how poor of a qualifying the first full-time driver after DV19 has had in this qualifying session. We saw in Australia, he came from 14th to 3rd, and then unfortunately got that time penalty, so he dropped back down to 5th. But we know what Aiden can do. He can come from the back of the field. But one thing is having quali pace. The other thing is about having race pace. You need to have the best of both worlds. And if you're better in qualifying, unless it's Monaco, it's not really going to mean much because you need that race pace, especially on a game like this with everybody so close together. So let's see what these drivers can bring. But DV19 sharing the same row on the grid as championship rival Gabriele Prazzi. I think that's going to be a bit of fireworks heading into turn 1.
That should make for an interesting start for sure. We just saw the screen flicker a little bit. I had to make sure that all my notes were ready, so I have the names of all of the 15 corners and of course the second straight. The only information that we have missed giving you so far is the information about the DRS zones. 2 DRS zones on this track, with 1 DRS zone detection around turn 3. Then down the Reto Posta, so after turn 3, the first DRS zone, and of course the second DRS zone with detection before turn 12, Junkao, and then all the way down the main straight, we have our second DRS zone. Now the waiting should almost be over. I did not hear anything about weather, so I think it's going to stay dry. We do have some clouds passing over, but I think that is just a little bit of confusion on our end, making us think that it might rain, but I do think it will stay dry for the 36 laps here around Interlagos, Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, as it's called, as I mentioned to you before. So let's get this underway. I hope loading is done in a moment's notice, and then we should be able to get started.
Yeah, hopefully it does. That's one thing that shouldn't have been removed on the last game was the countdown for the spectators, because now it comes as a bit of a surprise when the drivers are ready. But it seems like most of the drivers are going to be on the medium compounder tyres to start with, and then going to be moving on to the hards. That does seem like it is the favoured strategy so far on this game. Only Unmail Pattaya and actually no, it's only Malpatar on the hards, and then for the softs is only Drax. Everybody else on the medium compound of tyres, so only 2 drivers going for a different strategy at the start of this Grand Prix. It'll be interesting to see how they come through the field, especially Drax on those softs, but we're about to get underway, so Myth, take us away.
And with all 5 rat lights on, we will be on our way with a good start on the outside for Oliver Nutt, but immediately down the inside will be Maxim, but he gets beaten almost to the line by Tim Beyer. As a great start and a great getaway for Alessandro Poi. We see a few drivers going down the order. That's Tim Beyer, who started in P3, now in P9. Kevin West also dropping down the order a little bit in P12, but it will be Oliver holding on to that race lead for the time being, as it's also close there. Dennis Langrock getting past Meow. Kevin West now getting up on F1 Racers, lost a few positions now, all the way down to P13. Aiden also losing a position out to Drax. And if we look at the full details, the position changes, we see Tim Byers lost 6. Fun Racers lost 4, 3 positions gained for Justin Chevalier, and also 3 gained for Dennis Langor, currently in P7.
Yeah, brilliant start there from Oliver Knott. It didn't even get challenged heading into turn 1. Justin Chevalier now to the inside of Kevin Vest. He can get that move done through turn 11. A little bit of contact made, really squeeze that Mercedes, but gets the move done. Dennis Langrock now going to try go to the outside of Tim Tornimo, to the outside of Yun Sao. Meow still trying to look to get involved in all of this and pick up the pieces. He's going to get past Langrock. Can he get past Tornimo as well? They're side by side heading into turn 1. Gabriele Prazzi to the inside of Alessandro Chapoy, 3 wide, heading into that first corner. Dennis Langrock round the outside now, Miel to the inside through turn 2. There's a yellow flag in sector 1. That's for Aiden, who has had a spin through the first corner, but Miel comes out on top, ahead of Dennis Langrock, who's now under attack from Bayer in 8th place. Now goes to the inside, goes to McLaren. Really nicely done. Maxim has got past Oliver Knott, so the train gets away for the kick. Sauber hasn't lasted long. He's now into 2nd place on lap 2 of 36. Debuts on Maxim now takes the race lead after holding on to that 3rd place through the first corner. And we have the 2 Scuderia Ferraris battling over 11th and 10th, with Lewis Jones actually ghosting inside of Dennis Langrock. But a very, very frantic 2nd lap of proceedings here in Brazil, as now we see F1 Racer and Kevin Vest going side by side into Yensao, and I think F1 Racer might just come out on top with the better run out of the corner.
Yeah, and Lewis Jones has now also completed that overtake, although I think Oliver Knott will be looking to get past Maxim, but he's actually decided against it. Still slightly behind, as there comes Gabriel Pretzi, actually in P3 already with DV19 only just away. An F1 Racer dropping down the order. That's a horrible start for him.
Oh, yes. Absolutely horrid start for F1 Racer. Down to 17th place. I think there was contact with Kevin Vest going to the inside of Drax, I want to say. It was one of the 2 of Kevin Vest and Drax that made contact there with F1 Racer, and unfortunately has sent one of the championship protagonists down the order. So horrid start for one of them, dream start for the other 2, as DV19 and Gabriele Prazzi in 3rd and 4th. A big slide there for Dustin as he exits out of turn 9. As Maxime still leads the way. I'm not too sure that Oliver Knott will want to get past Maxim so early into this race. A big slide there from the Sauber, locking the rears, under braking, probably got on the grass on the outside, and that's allowed Gabriele Prazzi through, but they're going to both use their battery. Heading down this main straight, are they going to get close enough to get to Maxim as well? To the inside they go, and Oliver Knott will take the race lead back away from Prazzi, under braking, because of being ghosted inside there. Brilliantly done there from Oliver Knott to use that ghosting perfectly, use the slipstream and take the race lead back away. But now we could see 3 wide down the Retro Poster, as there goes Pratzi, there goes Maxim up into 1st and 2nd. Knott, who thought he had the race lead back, drops down to 3rd place and does eventually lose that place to Gabriele Prazzi, who now hits the front after winning in Austria, a 3rd place in Belgium. He's looking to start this one strong and maybe pick up another piece of silverware.
Yeah, great work by Gabriel, making his way up from P4 all the way now into P1, and Maxim doing great to come back at Oliver Knott as well, as DV19 is looking poised to get back up the order some more, as he's been stuck in P4 for some time, as Tim Beyer now also finds his way in P8 after dropping down the order after a little bit of contact in turn 1, because he was ready to go around the outside of Maxim there, lost out on it, and dropped down all the way to P11, I believe it was, for a brief moment. Now, then he looks for the inside move onto Oliver Knott. They do go side by side into the set of S's, but will need to leave some space here. But actually down the inside, Oliver Knott leaves some space for him as well. Perhaps too much space that he did leave there, and that means that DV19 will be on the inside. We have yellow in sector 1. That's once again Aiden who's gone low, and I think it's also Dennis Langrock who's made a mistake there.
Yeah, I think it was Dennis Langrock caught up in some contact. Lewis Jones versus Drax heading through turn 5. Justin Chevalier is going to try and capitalise on all this, but here comes Drax to the inside of Lewis Jones into turn 6. Not very often you see a move into there, as deep further on was Meowler's contact between Lewis Jones and Umal Pataya. That's going to allow Justin Chevalier to try and get back past his teammate. Dimbayer with a slide. Further up in 8th place, Chevalier still inside his teammate of the Ferraris. They're both ghosting through one another, and Lewis Jones will have to relinquish the position there to Justin Chevalier, as Maxim able to get past wasn't able to get past Gabriele Prazzi. DRS will now be open for the Alpine as they head down that main straight. He elects to back out of it though. This could allow Dustin Vincent to get past the Alpine. He's going to look to the inside line. Is he going to be late enough on the brakes to be committed to the inside? He's going to look to the outside, but no, elects to back out of it. Didn't have the momentum to run that round the outside through turn 2. Lewis Jones and Justin Dustin Chevalier still squabbling further back, but now here comes Dustin back to the inside for turn 4, and this time he has got it surely, as he's going to have the inside through turn 5. It's going to be super close between the pair. There goes DV19, Dustin Vincent up into second place. Maxim tried fighting it round the outside, thought better of it, and that allows the McLaren to catch up to Gabriele Prazzi. They started 5th and 6th. They're now 1st and 2nd on the road in 6 laps, and it's still the order they were in after qualifying. It's the reverse order of what they were in qualifying. It's Prazzi ahead of Dustin Vincent, and this could be crucial points for the championship for the Aston Martin driver.
Could be very crucial indeed. Another thing that's quite crucial is that the top 7 has broken the DRS tow onto Drax, who is 1.2 seconds away. That means he is going to be under tremendous pressure coming down the main straight. He surely is going to be overtaken by at least Tim Byer here for P8, as Passy has just gone past David Reiswick, who's now dropped all the way back to P18. And there, actually decided against it. Allows Drax to just brake late. And it's now Justin Chevalier who's gone past Alan McTeer and finds himself back into P12. And Lewis Jones getting that penalty earlier on. But here, once again, Dallin McTeer looking for it. Goes down the inside. Almost a little bit of Vettel Leclerc move there. They do touch each other going into the Descida del Lago. But he does come out ahead once more and retakes at P12 from Justin Chevalier, leaving the door open now for Milena, who is trying to catch up on them, but goes a little bit wider into, I believe that's Larangina, before really making, or at least trying to make a move onto Dustin. And further up ahead, it looks like Maxim has dropped down the order quite a bit. He's now in P6, but he's getting very close to the back of Tim Tornimo, and Oliver Knott now finds himself back into P3 after dropping down the order earlier on.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a slide there for Maxim heading through turn 8, which has really cost him as he's got DRS open now in that Alpine. I just don't think he's really going to go for this one here. It's going to be all about battery management. Dustin Vincent, though, goes for it on Gabriele Prazzi and hits the front of the field. He now takes the race lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. He is now up into the top, and something's happened to Maxim again. He's now dropped behind Miao and now has gone caught by this train of cars behind. Prazzi able to get back past Dustin Vincent. He wants to dictate the pace of this one as Miao's now up into 6th place. Maxim down to 7th. Kevin Vest going to the inside of Molina, getting that move done very nicely in his Mercedes. But unfortunate there for Maxim, who looks so composed up at the front, even with everything going on around him. I think those rear tyres just overheating slightly, causing the rears to lock. And unfortunately for the Alpine driver, has dropped off the back of that top 6 queue as Miao's just about got back within it as Alessandro Poi fired through the P. We're on lap 8 of 36 here in Brazil. And so far, Gabriele Prazzi at the front, holding on to this lead nicely. But Dustin Vincent is looking to try and take that race lead at every opportunity he gets. DRS open for the McLaren, but I just don't think it'll be close enough this time around.
No, and it doesn't seem like he will want to overtake as well. It's better to harvest a little bit of DRS as Tim Byer and Umar Patai now get past Maxim Rzavsky and also Drax. As, a little bit of contact there. I'm not sure if that cost him his front wing end plate. Still seems to be intact, but he's almost grinded the wheel of the Red Bull there as they now try. He's now trying to go to the inside again, but it's actually the Ferrari driver has to make sure he doesn't make contact with that Red Bull. A lot of contact being made. Almost ended into hard brake with the Ferrari behind him and Lewis Jones, but there's no crashing so far, so that is very, very good to see. And in the meantime, the gap to Tim Byer, 2.3 seconds to Miao, that definitely has increased. And it looks like Maxim made a mistake there coming out of turn 7. Turn 7. Turn 8,
Yeah.
sorry, turn 8. As he's now dropping further down the order. So where he had a great race start and was leading the race for a moment, he's now all the way back into P11, and it's not looking so good for him anymore. I think the tires are getting the better of him.
Yeah, I think they are too. He's starting to really struggle on that tyre. Further up, Dustin Vincent able to get past Prazzi. Oliver Knott Tim Tornimo overtaking Alessandro Poi. Prazzi and DV19 going for this one into turn 3. They're still squabbling over position. It'll be DRS open for Gabriele Prazzi. Oliver Knott, get your popcorn. You've got a front row seat of an absolute classic battle in front of you. And there we go. Gabriele Prazzi keeps his race lead. Tim Byer able to get past Umar Pataya. That's for 7th place in this Grand Prix. A big slide out of turn 4 though for the McLaren. Could allow Pattaya to get back within overtaking range into turn 8. Unfortunately for Pattaya, not able to do so though, as he's got Drax all over the back of him. Has Maxim down to 11th place so far. Another mistake into turn 8. This could allow Justin Chevalier to get back at the Alpine. And we saw a lap ago he got by, then got re-overtaken heading into turn 1. So will this time be the opportunity he's finally waiting for to get clear and get gone of that Alpine in front, who's really struggling on those rear tyres. So you could see Maxim with another big slide heading out of Yun Sao. That's the perfect opportunity for Justin Chevalier to go, thank you very much. I'm going to take this one from you. And there we go, the Ferrari past the Alpine. Further up, DB19 just going to sit behind Gabriele Brazzi, heading through turns 1 and 2. The CNRS is distracted, able to get past Tim Bayer, and DRS will now be open for the McLaren, and once again just not going to get close enough heading into turn 4. Seems that Gabriele Brazzi just has the upper hand when they do squabble, but for Dustin Vincent, I'm sure he's not worrying about this too much. Battery management is key, as Langrock and Aiden Hurt are both into the pit lane, as Passy getting past not only David Ricepick but also Molina as well, into really nice moves heading into turn 4.
Yeah, for F1 Racer, his advance so far hasn't been going so well. He's lost a couple of positions earlier on, especially at the start. Now finds himself in P15. Really does need to make sure he moves further up the order. What is good news, though, for the man in P7, 8, and 9 is that the gap towards the drivers up ahead, especially Meow in 6, is no longer increasing. It's staying put at 3 seconds. They need to make sure that gap does not increase, because if that gap does increase, it's going to be more and more difficult for them to get close to them after the pit stops weekends. And here we go. The overtake done by DV19. Oliver Knott trying to put one inside of Gabriel Patrese as well, but that does not work out for him. He will be behind for a time being, and having his teammate Tim Tornimo awfully close to his tail as well. Then further down the order, it's actually Tim Tornimo having a look down the inside of Oliver Knott. He's gone past. Tim Tornimo now finds himself in P3, but really has to make sure that he makes that kick Sauber wide, because almost down the inside, Oliver Knott wants to have a little cheeky look there. And as we look further down, it looks like Drax has gone past Umar Pattaya. But that gap, as I said, to Meow, staying solid. Now actually dropping down a little bit, quite a bit now, as it's 2.7 seconds with Drax behind Meow.
Yeah, that gap's starting to come down. It's just where they're all concertinaing up the top 6 into some of these heavier braking zones, causing that gap to come down, especially into that middle sector. Tim Tornimo's had a horrid end to this lap. He's nearly 8 tenths behind. He's nearly just dropped DRS for these guys behind the top 2. Gabriele Prazzi, look at that, to the inside, as easy as you like with the DRS. As here comes Alessandro Poi, maybe, on Oliver Knott. No, he's just going to have to sit behind. Oliver Knott nearly goes into the back of his teammate. He's gone straight off the road, down to 6th, and this could be crucial for his Grand Prix, as he's now rejoined. Still in 6th place is Pattaya and Drax battle side by side through turn 3. But Oliver Knott, it was going oh so well for him, up in 4th place. He let his teammate by last time around to not lose as much time as he possibly could. And it's ended up with him paying the repercussions, because he's just been caught by surprise under braking and nearly went straight into the back of his teammate, who just had a big slide through turn 7. Starting to struggle with those rear tyres is Tornimo.
Yeah, I think most of the drivers are looking for a pit stop in a moment's notice. Tim Bayer has just made a pit stop out of that second group, so that means that the top group has this or the next lap to take their pit stop, and I think a few will be taking their pit stop now, as they want to make sure that they keep that lead that they've had so far and keep it a 7-man fight. Well, actually, it's actually come down to a 6-man fight now, although Meow has also fallen out of contention a little bit. The top 3 does not go in. We have caution in Sector 3. That is for, I think it's for David Reiswick, who has to get back onto speed. And Oliver Knott's gone past Meow, so he's made up for that mistake earlier on. But we see some mistakes coming in, and while Pattaya has now also made the pit stop, and I think the top 7
another mistake
in a moment, as DV19's been overtaken again.
DV19's been overtaken, and Oliver Knott with another mistake heading into turns 1 and 2. This time on the exit of turn 2. He's dropped down the order now to 7th place. Really struggling here is Oliver with those rear tyres. Ricevic is our first retirement of the Grand Prix, unfortunately retiring in the pit lane for speeding. And unfortunate there for Oliver Knott to then drop down the order and now down to 7th place. A bit like what happened to Maxim. As soon as those tyres start to fade, it just seems that they have no grip left in the car. And that luckily for Oliver Knott, this time around, unlike Maxim, the pit window won't be too far away for those hard compounded tyres. Probably give it another lap or two, and he'll be in for a fresh set of boots. That's allowed the top three to break away from Alessandro Poi. And talking about pit stops, I thought it'd be another lap longer. No, they're into the pit lane now. Knott stays out for an extra lap this time around. Same with F1 Racer, because of course Tornimo's into the pit lane, Knott has to stay out, and onto the hard compound tyres. These drivers will go. Who will come out on top in the pit lane battle? It's going to be Gabriele Prazzi from DV19, Tim Tornimo, and then Alessandro Poi. Very tricky pit exit though. Very easy to drop the rear, especially heading out of this, of what is the wider part of turn 2. And then on the inside for turn 3, easy to hit the wall with some understeer. But look at that, out into 3rd place, Gabriele Prazzi. And look at the trainer cars that are coming up behind them, who've boxed that one lap earlier. And that's Miao, who just comes out in front of Mao Pataya. And that gap has shrunk between Miao and Pataya. But that means Alessandro Poi actually has extended that gap to Miao behind.
Yeah, I think Miao made a little bit of a mistake as well in the laps leading up to the pits, and it's actually F1 Racer who's seriously picking up the pace. Before breaking into turn 1 to Sen S's, that gap was over a second. The gap now down to 3/10. DRS coming up. He will try and go past. I think he's going for another lap, and he will indeed. So it looks like as soon as you get into fresh air, F1 Racer definitely has some extra speed to use. And if he can extend the stint perhaps a little bit longer and still stay within the DRS train, he's got some great chances of making it back, because he was oh so far away, but he's now managed to get closer and closer to that group who's still fighting for the race win. So he's definitely a man to watch out for. In the meantime, though, Gabriele Prazzi is getting the pressure from DV19 to him once again. And look at that, DV19 down the inside on the Reto Aposta, breaking into the Descida do Lago, and he's gotten the provisional race lead back. He's now in P2 for a time being. Tim Tornimo still within the DRS range, but Alessandro Poi starting to fade away a little bit, now 1.4 away from the man in P4.
Yeah, Alessandro Poi is starting to fade. It's going to be a battle between this top 3, I feel like, of Dustin Vincent, Gabriele Prazzi, and Tim Tornimo. Unless a mistake happens or they squabbles too hard, that Alessandro Poi does catch back up. I think this top 3 are just going to start to run clear slightly. Look how bad this strategy's worked for Oliver Knott. He's actually dropped behind Maxim. I said, don't fear, he won't have the same fate as Maxim. And unfortunately, the commentator's curse has struck, and Oliver Knott is falling behind Maxim and also Tim Beyer with all that happening. Gabriele Prazzi getting closer to DV19, won't go for the move. Oliver Knott will go for the move on Maxim, though. So he heads to the inside. Oh, Kevin Vest is going to look to the outside of the Alpine, who goes really late on the brakes, nearly into the back of Oliver Knott there. Further up, Dustin Vincent. Here comes Prazzi, gaining, just can't gain enough. Miao's able to get past Pataya. I think Drax is going to look to the inside too. Yes, he is, to follow Bahas through, and there we go. Drax up into 7th place. These guys should start to gain on Alessandro Poi in front, who has no DRS, so we could see from 5th place all the way down to 16th, squabbling over position as Maxim holding it round the outside of Oliver Knott there through turn 7. Really nicely done to defend the position and keep 13th place.
And I think at this point DV19 has starting to close the gap onto F1 Racer, who really needs to go into the pit, but he's still staying out. It looks like he still has decent pace, but the pace is starting to drop. He's just on a 1:10.9, and once DV19 comes across the line, we can see what this lap time is, but I think it's about a second quicker as he lets Gabriele Prazzi by. That time is a 1:10.1, so he's losing 0.8 a lap. I think if he waits too much longer, he's going to come, well, he's definitely going to come out behind Passi. But if he comes behind Passi with more than a second to spare, he will have a lot of catching up to do. And yeah, if we look further ahead, Drax about a second away from Alessandro Poi. Alessandro, in the meantime, 2.5 seconds away from your lead group. So it looks like we're going to have a 3-way fight for the race win, unless F1 Racer is going to pull something magical out of that hat later on in the race. But it looks like we're starting to see that being decided for the time being, as Alessandro Poi really started to get under pressure from the drivers behind, and also Justin Chevalier getting awfully close to Dallin McTeer up ahead. But we're going to stay looking at Alessandro's point of view, because Drax is coming very close to him and might overtake him as soon as that straight ends.
Yeah, that certainly could be the case. It's just how hard it is for Alessandro Poi to not have any slipstream, not have any DRS, and that just allows the likes of Drax and Malpatar to get closer and closer, and the same for Dustin Vincent and Tornimo, just to get that a little bit further away. Drax still having to sit behind through turns 1 and 2, but Poi goes wide. Poi with a huge error out of turn 2. This is surely going to open the door for Drax as Dustin Vincent's able to get past Bratzi. Drax to the outside, and he's able to get past Alessandro Poi there. Dallin McTeer under pressure from Justin Chevalier, who's late on the brakes to the inside. Really hugged that inside line there. Now through turn 5, surely going to come out on top of Chevalier over McTeer, and there we go. The Ferrari driver moves himself up into 9th place. Really nicely worked, very committed to that inside. He was not going to back down out of that one, and he's moved up into 9th place and gains an extra point to his tally so far this season at the moment. So Alessandro Poi still all over the back of Drax. I feel like Poi is struggling on these hard compounded tyres, just can't seem to click with them at the moment. So let's see if Drax can catch up to that top 3 in front. Of course, they'll extend down these next 2 straights as Tornimo's all over the back of Pratzi. Pratzi all over the back of Dustin Vincent. Is he going to go for the move? Yes, he is. There goes the Aston Martin to the inside of McLaren. Nicely done. Goes a bit deep into the corner. He's going to have a tight line through turn 2, which could affect his run through turn 3 as well. Now will be DRS open, heading down that the retro poster for Dustin Vincent. Can he get this one done? It looks like he can. Late on the brakes, Pratzi holds it to the inside. Can the Aston Martin still surprisingly come out on top? Yes, he can. Dustin Vincent with no answer for that one. He has to sit in 2nd place, but he won't be complaining too much because he can just save that battery in the DRS. But still, an unfortunate attempt to get that move off has not gone right for Dustin Vincent, your championship leader, looking to take the first of, his 2nd win of the season and become the first double winner.
Yeah, it's starting to look like Drax behind is starting to close that gap a little bit. At the start of the previous lap, that was 3 seconds. It's now coming down to 2.4. Of course, it will increase once more with the DRS zones, but it looks like Drax is a little bit quicker than the man up ahead. And still continuing is F1 Racer, 20-lap-old mediums. Is he going to switch for the softs, or is he going to do a very hard pushing stint on those hards? Because at the end of the race, the hards of these drivers here are going to be done and dusted. As for F1 Racer, those tires are still going to be a whole lot fresher, but way too long, and you will have to play big time catch up, because I think at this point he's going to be coming out behind Oliver Knott. But we have yellow in sector 1, that's Maxim Ruzavsky, who's had a massive qualifying session, but unfortunately a race to forget for now as he spun around the Senna S's again. I think that's the 3rd time this race that he's had a moment there, and it now means that he finds himself at the back of the grid, not what he was hoping for, and also has a penalty to his name. If you look at the full penalties, we see 3 penalties in total, all 3 seconds. Oliver Knott finds one for 3. Lewis Jones, 3 seconds, and Maxim, who we just mentioned. But Oliver Knott has really come down the order. Remember, he started on pole position, now P15 with 3 seconds. Aye.
Yeah, it's not been a good race for that front row of the grid so far this evening, as here comes Pratzi on Dustin Vincent. A really late move there from Pratzi. Nearly took them both out of contention, but the Aston Martin keeps his car in a straight line and is able to carry on and now head through turn 3 in front of Dustin Vincent this time around. So the Aston Martin keeping a very defensive line into turn 1 to break that, to turn 4, sorry, to break that slipstream into the Sino de Largo, and Dustin Vincent just having to sit behind once again. Save his battery on lap 22 of 36. Go again, and it's just going to be constant swapping, but onto the grass into turn 6. Could have just ended these race there once again, but luckily for him, was able to keep that car going forwards. But that slide can pay dividends to tyre wear, pay dividends to tyre temperature, and usually on this game, if you have one slide, you're going to have a couple more for the next few laps, because that's just how the tyre model works, and they just overheat slightly after having one little moment.
And our race leader now comes into the pit lane. After 22 laps, he decides it's all but enough. And he's going to come in. But what tires is he going to go for? I think that's softs. He's going for softs. F1 Racer is pulling a completely different strategy to the other drivers, where everyone went from medium to hards. He goes from mediums onto softs. But where is he going to come out on the track? Will he come ahead of... I think he's just going to be coming out behind Oliver Nutt and just in front of the drivers behind, which are Aiden. I hope he does come out in front of Aiden, but he comes out just behind. I think he's going to lose another position there to Dennis Langrock, and will indeed come out ahead of Lewis Jones. But can he still crawl his way back to the front of the grid? He's going to have much better tires, but will need to dispatch the drivers up ahead of him quickly. Let's see how quickly he can make his way up the order, because he's got about 6 seconds to the drivers up ahead, but he needs a lot of overtaking.
Yeah, I feel like this might be just a little bit too bold here from F1 Racer to really pull this one off. He's got past Dennis Langrock with a nice move into turn 10. A big moment as well for Oliver Nutt further up, who's just been just nearly got overtaken by Aiden. There goes Justin Chevalier, and there goes Dustin Vincent as well. And Gabriele Prazzi, Dustin goes deep. He doesn't expect to have that much overspeed heading into the corner. Broke too late, and this is going to allow Prazzi to then get the DRS once again, use a bit of battery, or is he just going to sit behind this time around? It looks like he is. Prazzi thinking better of it, gonna save that battery and sit behind. F1 Racer and Aiden were both able to get past there as Tim Bayer is going wide there after being overtaken by Meow. Went wide and got overtaken again by Meow. I think he got the move done, got re-overtaken and forced a little bit wide there. Was the McLaren's yellow flag in that middle sector. That was for Maxim again, making another error in this race. Really unfortunate for this top two who started this race, Oliver Nutt and Maxim, both down in the bottom in 16th and 19th respectively, sorry. So, for the top three, heading into Yunsao once again, Tim Tornimo still just sitting behind these two, waiting on an opportunity to pounce. He's just playing the long game here, is Tornimo, and that opportunity to pounce is now forced to the outside by Gabriele Prazzi, who's then going to attack DV19 as contact. Vincent just about was able to collect his car under braking. Tornimo went for a big slide as well through turn 1 after clipping that inside curb. Vincent, though, attacking once again into turn 4, into the Sino de Largo, but unfortunately not able to get it done. Tornimo, though, was going for it that time around, was forced wide, and then nearly had his whole race ended by a loose and squirmy Dustin Vincent underbrake after contact.
Yes, indeed. And in the meantime, I'm trying to see how much closer F1 Racer is going to get. He's now 3.6 seconds away from Milena. That gap, once he overtook Aiden, was 4.5. But let's see how much he can gain in that middle sector. Will need to close that gap as soon as he can, as Maxim sets the fastest lap time in P19. But yeah, Tim Tornimo really starting to up the pressure onto the drivers up ahead. And Drax is actually getting a lot closer now. The gap only 1.9 seconds to the drivers up ahead. And if he can close that gap, we're not going to have a 3-man fight for the race win. We're going to have a fight between 9 different drivers for that race win. So let's hope they can come closer. But look at that. Tim Tornimo down the inside of Gabriele Prazzi. They go side by side through the set S's, but he has to concede and has to let him go, and that allows him Pataya, who's now in P4, to get a little bit closer. That gap still 2.2 seconds, but with the DRS has increased a little bit as Drax now once again dispatches Oimal after he got past him on the straight. F1 Racer is gaining by about a second a lap, now 2.7 away, but really does show how difficult it is to overtake and to gain without DRS, but will need to come closer quickly. Still got 10 seconds to go for it, but I think if he does manage this well, he could still score some points after a race start that didn't work out well for him.
Oh, Dustin's gone deep into Pico de Pato. He's locked the rear tyres. I think he's got on the grass, and it's another mistake for your championship leader. Of course, went a bit wide and got a bit loose through turn 7 a few laps ago, and this time, touching the grass, goes very, very deep and very sideways through to Pico de Pato. Lucky to keep that car facing forwards. Tim Tornimo now on the back of Gabriele Prazzi. He's now in second place. Malpataya gets past Drax. I think these two really are starting to work together to catch the 3 in front of them. I just don't think at the minute it will be enough. They're not gaining by enough. They're gaining by about 2 seconds a lap. As you can see, once again, Drax there going for a move. On Pataya, they are just swapping places here. And one thing Justin Chevalier isn't waiting for is waiting for the moves to be made. And there goes Alessandro Poi. Drops down to 7th place. Now under pressure from Miao now, who's going to the outside through turns 6 and 7. How dangerous this could be for the Haas. But it's pulled off. Is he, though? Heading into turn 8. Alessandro Poi keeps his card to the inside. Now into turn 9. A gutsy move could be rewarded here for Miao. And yes, it is. Really well worked. Round the outside. Full-on commitment through 6 and 7. Then held it through turn 8. Knew he'd have the inside for 9. And that was absolutely superb from from Miao, and Alessandro Poi has to relinquish that position, and this time could even lose the position to Tim Bayer as well. We'll have to wait and see. That gap between Draxon and Malpataya, not Draxon, DB19, now 2 seconds, Tintor Nemo overtakes Gabriele Prazzi, and the Kick Sauber now hits the front of the field. It was pole for Kick Sauber with Oliver Knott in qualifying, and now it could be the race win with Tornimo. Here comes Dustin Vincent to the inside of Prazzi, who's going to look to defend with the inside of Tim Tornimo. That could have been an airplane crash, and Tornimo with a slide out to turn 4 keeps the car in a straight line. God, it's all starting to kick off now up at the front. Tornimo hits the front and is now on set for a race victory.
Yeah, and just behind we saw that Drax was slowly but surely gaining a lot of time, but where that gap was 1.5 before the DRS zone heading into the main straight, that gap now 2.1 with just a little bit to go, so it looks like they've lost quite a bit, about over half a second in this lap alone, so that's not good news for them. But further down the order, F1 Racer has finally closed the gap onto Milena, so he's now to the back of the queue. That will promote him actually all the way, could promote him all the way up onto P4. That's how close that gap is. So if he can dispatch one driver at a time, every lap one driver, he can still make his way up well into the points. But that gap to Milena is a big one, so he will need to improve in that middle sector. Let's go on board with F1 Racer. How much quicker is he? Because he's going to have a lot of overspeed coming out of turn 3. The Curva do Sol, and there he goes, uses a little bit of ERS, is going to go around the outside of Milena, will make that work, has to brake very hard not to jump into the back of Dallin McTeer, but once again, overspeed, going to go to the inside, could make that move stick around the outside, but that Mercedes might hamper his progress, slides a little bit to the side, still stays ahead of Milena, but can't get that move done onto Dallin McTeer just yet, so his progress is starting to be halted a little bit, but if Kevin West wasn't there, he would have been able to take that for sure. He's still in P13, hopefully can pick up some points, but it's going to be a very, very tough ask for him.
It certainly is. Justin Chevalier getting all out of shape, heading up into out of Yunsao, and heading up into turns 13 and 14. Chevalier now hit the front of this field, and Malpataya is going to get past him now to the outside. So is Drax maybe heading into turn 1. No, he backs out of it. Dustin Vincent still just sitting behind Tornimo and Prazzi. These guys all just trying to focus and manage that gap up behind them. So here comes DB19. This time around, Dustin Vincent. We're going to have 3 wide into the Sino De Largo. There goes Dustin Vincent into the front of the field. He's made that beautifully. 2 into 1 does go, and Dustin Vincent now hits the front of the field. The McLaren driver up into first place. The Kick Sauber of Tintornimo stays where he is, and Gabriele Prazzi drops down to 3rd place. It's all about when you make your moves. That really is what defines a champion. A big slide from Dustin Vincent, and he's made the move now. Let's see if he's able to hang on to this for the next 6 laps of the Grand Prix, and Justin Chevalier 1.6 seconds behind. Now that gap is shrinking with all this squabbling going on between this top 3, but the question is, will it shrink another 5/10 of a second to get them within DRS range? We'll only find out within the next few laps. Pratzi, he's using a bit of battery in hot lap mode to try and maybe get past Tim Tornimo here. He's getting closer and closer. Not enough. Drax ahead of Chevalier. This really is starting to spice up. Can these guys behind, it's 1.8 through turn 2 now, can Drax, Chevalier and Pataya catch up to that top 3 as here comes Tanimo to the inside of Dustin Vincent. Nicely done with the DRS.
Yeah, some great overtakings happening further down the line. In the meantime, F1 Racer has made his way up into P11, but now once again has a 2-second gap that he needs to close to the drivers up ahead. That will be Meow, and that will be for points as well. So F1 Racer really needs to step it up, but it looks like his soft runners, his soft tires are starting to come to an end as well, as we saw a little bit of a dive bomb from Dallin McTeer onto Milena, but that does not work out for him. F1 Racer is starting to close that gap a little bit, but look at that. Justin Chevalier, 1.3 seconds to Gabriel Pratizzi up ahead. This is the closest the gap has been so far, but with the gap up ahead being so close as well, are they going to stay behind or are they going to go for overtakes? Because this lap could mean that if they make some mistakes, that they allow the top 4 to come closer. Let's see what they do. They both go for the overtake, so Tim Tornimo's back to 3rd. The gap now 1.5 in turn 1, 1.4 even. This could shrink. This could shrink into Drax's favor. It's now 1.2. They're going to use a lot of overtake because they know they can close that gap now. And he's using it to his advantage. He's going to make sure Justin stays behind. So in this middle sector now, he needs to gain 3 tenths in order to get in that DRS window. And it looks like he's starting to use a little bit of that ERS. Can he get closer though? The gap now, 1 second. Almost down to a second. It's within a second. He's managed to close the gap around about. He's starting to fall outside of it again. Will it be close enough once the DRS detection zone comes in? He will need to use ERS now. Has to use it now. Does use it. Will it be close enough? The detection point is right over here, and I think it's close enough. He does lock up a little bit. Where is that detection? Does he have it? He's close enough. He's done it. The gap is closed, and that means all the way to P10, we're in a DRS train, and F1 Racer is soon going to join that. How much closer is this going to get? Because it looks like we've got a bigger fight at our hands.
Yes, it certainly is, and if you're Justin Chevalier at the moment, do not, by all means, do not battle Drax just yet. I know we only have 4 laps to go, but you don't want to risk losing that DRS. There goes Tanimo to the inside of Dustin Vincent. He's able to pull that one off. Drax still just within DRS range of the McLaren in front. Justin Chevalier is looking at this like, we need to catch up at least 2 or 3 more attempts if we want any chance of winning this Grand Prix. It's the way the top 3 have just been bunching up under braking. And look at Dustin Vincent going deep into turn 8 has just allowed Drax to catch up to 3 tenths behind. Now, we really do have the fight on our hands between that top 10 cars on the road. So Dustin Vincent now heading into Yun Sao. He's extended that gap to about 5 tenths. Chevalier, you can now start to battle. A bit of lag there for Drax, unfortunately, which is set him back slightly. But Chevalier now really needs to get that move done. Drax is starting to hold him up compared to that top 3 in front, who are this time around haven't even started to squat to be able to get past. Unfortunate for Poi, he started off strong and hasn't really been able to hit the front like he should have. As there you see Maxim's car after his retirement, and an F1 racer now dropping down behind Kevin Vest. Chevalier, is he getting closer enough? No, he's not. 3 laps to go here in Brazil, and it is certainly getting closer. Tim Tornimo is in 2nd place, currently in the hot seat.
10 drivers all within the DRS window, so with chaos that could still unfold in the final 3 laps, it is all to play for them, but it looks like F1's racer soft tires are done and dusted, so he's not going to make it into the points anymore, sadly, so will lose a lot of points to his championship competitors, Gabriel and DV19, but who of those is going to come out on top, and is Drax or Justin Chevalier going to put themselves right in that fight and perhaps even go for some more overtakes? Tim Tornimo starting to lose a little bit of time up ahead to Gabriel. It looks like he saved enough tires for that. He's now on 48% of ERS for Tim Tornimo. That's 64-38 for DV19, but Drax is coming closer, and it looks like we have yellow in Sector 1. That's a Mercedes. It's a Mercedes of Omai Pataya, who's gone wide into Turn 1. He's fully spun out, and he's out of contention now, and that means that F1 Racer now once again has hopes for some points, 3/10 away from Kevin West.
Yeah, F1 Racer has at least 1 point in front of him. That's all he'll probably want at this point, being so far off the back of the field. He desperately would want that point, because that could be crucial come the end of the season. Drax all over the back of Dustin Vincent. We are about to be in for an absolute thriller in the last lap here at Brazil. 2008, not a championship on the line, but it all comes down to the final lap and that run out of Yunsao. Are we going to see Tim Tornimo snatch his first race win of the season and make it 4 different winners from the first 4 races? Or are we going to see our first repeat winner in Pratzi or Dustin Vincent? Now is the time that we find out as we enter lap 36 of 36 of what has been a chaotic Brazilian Grand Prix. Pratzi with a mistake. Out of turn 1. Drax is able to get past DV19. It's all Tim Tornimo up at the front. He's managed to go dummy. He's managed to dummy Pratzi into a defensive move, and he's got to the front in the dying laps of this race. It's turn 4. The Sino de Largo through turn 5. Gabriele Pratzi now all over the back of Tim Tornimo. It's got to be that run to the line that could see the Aston Martin driver become the first double winner here in WOR PC Tier 4. Or will it be a first time win in the Kick Sauber? They took pole position with Oliver Knott. Can it be Tim Tornimo's day here in Sao Paulo? It's going to be about this run out of Yunsao. Tornimo versus Pratzi. It's going to be about this exit. Tornimo with a slide. This is going to allow Gabriele to get the slipstream, to use his battery and get the run that he needs with the DRS. Here we are then, heading to the line. Is it going to be Tornimo? Is it going to be Pratzi? It's going to be at the line. It's so close. It's Tornimo to win here in Brazil. Kick Sauber win. And it's 4 different winners from the first 4 races. A maiden victory for Tornimo here in Brazil. Brilliantly done, and by 11 milliseconds. And for 3rd place, Dustin Vincent holds on for another 17 milliseconds over Drax. What an ending, what a race. Brazil, you certainly did deliver.
And the races here in T4 keep on delivering. In the first race, it was 1,000th of a second that separated the top 2. Now, it's 11,000ths of a second that separate the top 2. And it will be indeed Tim Tornimo from P8 on the grid to win the race here tonight, making it 4 different winners so far in the season. Joining him on the podium will be the 2 drivers that have been on 3 of the 4 podiums so far. Gabriele Pratzi in P2, DV19, your championship leader in P3. But Gabriele definitely getting a lot closer to the drivers up ahead. And it looks like they're really starting to pull away in the championship standings. Then from P16 on the grid, it's Drax in 4th. Justin Chevalier in 5th. Then it's Tim Beyer. Passy from all the way back to P7. Alessandro Poi, F1 Racer, still picking up 2 points after finishing in P9. And then I believe it was Miao before he was noted as DNF, but it shows Kevin West here in P10. Then it's Alan Matir, Milena, Dennis Langrock, Umay Pataya, Eden, Lewis Jones. Yeah, here comes Miao then, but I think based on the race time, 5.4 indeed puts him in P10. And then 3 drivers that didn't make it to the line. That's Maxim, pole sitter Oliver Knott, and David Reiswig. But looks like starting on the front row, in bad luck so far, because both of the drivers that started on the front row did not finish the race here tonight.
Yeah, really unfortunate for that front row. Neither of them having a great race at all. But Tim Tornimo, he took his opportunity when he saw it. He saw it was probably going through his mind, this is my last opportunity. I haven't got that pace through the middle sector at the moment on that tyre to get Pratzi at the line. And wow, you could really see how much he was pushing out of Yunsao with that slide, and that could have threw it all away. But he burned all that battery he possibly could by 11 milliseconds. Took that one at the line. I'm actually shaking from how chaotic that ending was. But oh my god, what a win from Tim Tornimo. He managed that one perfectly. And for Passy as well, so I think I finished 7th from 20th on the grid. Really good drive from the Williams car too. There we go.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Well, can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty exhausted, to be honest. Yeah, I messed up my last qualifying lap. I think there was a point 0.6 high or a point 0.7 low in it, like easily, but I messed it up totally. And yeah, so starting P5 was pretty decent. I mean, if you start in the top 5, you always have a chance of winning a race in those tiers, I think.
Yeah, and even further down the grid, the drivers made up some great positions. I believe the driver started in P8, ended up being the race win. But first, let's go back to quality. You mentioned there were a few mistakes in there. So, what exactly were you aiming for in terms of positions for where to start on the grid?
To be honest, top 5 is minimum what I want to start. And yeah, I think P3 to P1 was easily in it. If I just get the qualifying lap right, it will be a 0.6 high or 0.7 low, as I said. And yeah, I messed it up. I had a little bit of wheel spin out of a last right-hander of a second sector, of a second split. I don't know how to say, to be honest. And yeah, I lost quite a decent time there. I think a tenth, about a tenth. And yeah, so I was pretty happy with P5, to be honest, because I know my race pace and race IQ should get me some, or should gain me some places.
Yeah, you were constantly in that fight with Gabriel and Tim Turnimo. But at the end, I think with a few laps to go, all of a sudden we saw you drop back a couple of tenths. Do you know what happened there?
Yeah, I think the tires dropped off a bit and I couldn't control them anymore. On the braking, it was pretty. Yeah, it was not the best. Let's say it that way.
All right, and then yeah, for most of the race, it looked like it was going to be a three-man fight, and all of a sudden, the drivers behind you were coming closer and closer until the final few laps. They were within DRS window of you guys. Were you ever concerned that your podium was in any danger?
To be honest, no, I wasn't, because I knew my race pace would have been a bit better, and I think also it was better than the guys in front of me who finished in front of me. But I did some mistakes, and I think also we didn't push enough in the middle split, so those guys could catch up. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with P3 at the end. I mean, I overtook Drax, the Red Bull driver, with like 17 thousandths of a second. So I mean, I won the first race by 1,000 of a second. I finished P4 or P3 in Austria, and I lost the win in Belgium by around 1/10 of a second. So it's all so close, and it's just a great competitive field, and I'm looking forward to everything that comes.
All right. Well, then moving on to you, Max. Any questions from your end?
Yeah, just you've pretty much asked all my questions, Myth. I thought of them ahead, then you would go ask them. But yeah, one from me, ZV19 is of course next time out. I think we head to Qatar. Let me quickly just double check. Yeah, we do around Qatar. You confident around there, and will you be racing?
Yeah, I will definitely be racing. I love the track in terms of hot lapping. For racing, it's quite shit, to be honest. And yeah, I think it's all about getting into a rhythm and getting no time penalties. And if I drive a good lap, I think podium will be in it. That should be my aim for those next races. I mean, we have had four races quite so far, and think there's 7 left. Correct me if I'm wrong. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we can pretty easily say there's a championship between Gabriele, maybe Racer if he finishes a bit higher on his next races, and me, maybe also Spectre. So Spectre is Tim Tornemo.
All right. Well, I think that rounds off the questions from my end. So thank you very much from once again being in the commentary box, Dustin. And hopefully we'll see you again. And it looks like the championship lead is going to remain in your hands for just a little bit more.
That's perfect. Thanks for commentating, and thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Goodbye. And that means that now we're going to move in our race winner. The man who was a little bit away in qualifying, starting from P8 on the grid, picking up not only his first podium, but also his first race win here at WRPCT4. Tim Tornemo, everyone!
Yeah. Eh.
Wow! What a race that was!
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as you say, it's my first win here, and I mean, I'm glad I could get the win with Gabriel and Dustin on the podium. I really have respect for those guys. They're good drivers, and obviously we battled the entire race pretty cleanly, no incidents. So it's just a perfect race as well from P8.
Yeah, you had a great first in. You managed to get up there with the guys. Did you realize after the first pit stop that, hey, a race win could be on the cards here tonight?
I never. I mean, I didn't really expect a race win or even a podium going into the race. But after I pitted and it was P3, I mean, I didn't actually expect to fight with Gabriel because I feel like he had way more pace. But once I actually got into P2, I realized that it was actually serious and I could potentially pick up my first win. So I don't know, it was fun.
Yeah, and then that final lap, what a nail biter that must have been. We saw coming out at turn 1, Gabriel had a little moment that allowed you to come by, but then in turn 12, leading up to the main straight, you also had a little moment there, and Gabriel got really close. That must have been very anxious for you.
Oh, I mean, when I saw him lose it in turn 1, I thought he did it strategically to get the DRS on the back straight, but obviously my teammate who DNF'd, he was saying I have way more ERS, and I think I do it. So I just tried to stay ahead and go on none, but not let him pass. So I knew I had a little bit more ERS, but yeah, and then I was just trying to get a good exit. But yeah, I did lose the rear end, but luckily I won it by 11 thousandths, which is amazing.
All right, then moving on to Max. Any questions from your end?
Yeah. a few from me here, Tim. First of all, congratulations on your race victory here this evening. But yeah, that final lap, did you think that turn 4 was I have to get it done now, or it was just because Gabrielli lost it? It just ended up that chain reaction causing you to get the move done.
I was planning to get done in turn 4 because on every lap we were driving, Gabriel was pulling like 7/10 out of the last corner. So I knew he had a way better exit than me. I just tried to get it on lap 4 and potentially mess up his exit a little bit so I can have a better launch to the straight. But I mean, that's exactly what happened. But yeah, I plan to do it on turn 4 anyways.
Yeah, I mean, really, really well worked into turn 4. I mean, the slide also helped, and I mean, you
Yeah.
guys were racing very aggressively in your little trio with you, Dustin and
Yeah.
Gabrielli. Did you think at any point in that racing there's going to be into this corner?
I'm sorry, you have to repeat that. Your mic cut out for me.
Oh, did it? I said heading into some of the corners with your battle, did you think there was going to be a huge crash between you three?
I didn't think there was gonna be a crash between us three. It's just the only thing I was worried about in that train is because Gabrielle and Dustin, I'm guessing they were going none and recharging all the time, and they were swapping positions, just unnecessary time loss. So I was more worried about the train behind us that was catching up, which they did, because we had a 3 second gap, and I was thinking, oh, this is at least a podium. And then they started battling, which made us lose a lot of time. Which, yeah, that was my biggest issue. So you could see in the race sometimes I would just use all my ERS so they would use so we wouldn't, drop back into them. So that was my biggest worry.
Yeah, very, very well managed from yourself. And then finally, head to Qatar next week. First of all, will you be racing? And then second of all, you confident around there? Do you think you can at least get another top 5 result?
I mean, I'm gonna be racing for every race if I cannot, if something doesn't pop up. Um, but I'm not really confident around Qatar. Neither am I here. I was around 5/10 behind my teammate in practice. I'm very busy with work and that, so I have limited practice, which I only did a session before this. So I'm really happy with my best quality of the year, and yeah, best finish as well. I guess I'll see in Qatar. But after seeing this, I might put some work in so I can maybe even challenge Dustin for the championship.
Oh yeah, I mean, if we see that, that'll be absolutely perfect because me and Myth would absolutely love a championship fight. And don't tell Dustin this if it does happen. Hopefully, for your sake, you come out on top. So yeah, I mean, congratulations on your race win, and yeah, hopefully we see you again in Qatar, or if not, some point this season.
Yeah, I'll make sure to be there and try to not disappoint.
Oh yeah, it really is. It's really nice to hot lap around. I mean, personally, for me, not a big fan because it just doesn't suit my driving style at all. But from an actual drive, just an average driver's perspective, it's a really nice track to drive, especially in qualifying when you're full on the limit, pushing that car from track limit to track limit. It's so narrow at some points of the circuit that you've really just got to be on it, and you've got to be absolutely perfect and minimalistic with your driving. So, yeah, it's going to be an exciting race. Slipstreaming is going to be absolutely crazy, and I'm expecting a close field. Strategy will once again pay dividends when it comes to that, and we could see a train breakaway like we did here in Brazil. So we'll have to wait and see, and I think that's going to be it from me here this evening. So yeah, thank you all. I appreciate you guys all watching, and yeah, over to you, Myth. But yeah, Qatar should be a brilliant race.
Qatar should be great indeed, and it looks like we had a little bit of a cutout, at least on my end again. It looks like push to talk not working as perfectly as it was the previous days, but at least enough for me to speak towards the end of the race. So this was all of the action here tonight at Race 4 with a great, amazing finish to the race here at Interlagos Round 4. And next week, as you mentioned, Max, we'll be back in Qatar, so make sure to definitely tune in with us next week on Monday. And also keep an eye out for Tier 1, which started yesterday here at WOR, so a lot of action here at WOR all together, so keep an eye out for all the different tiers, but of course in particular the championship fight that is starting to unravel here on PC Tier 4. We'll be back next week Monday, so see you all then, have a good night, and see you soon.